Now we're going to move on to characters. So characters, some characters are in nonfiction book, but let's talk about fiction first. So for fiction, you're going to choose two characters from the text. In 2 or 3 paragraphs, you're going to analyze how these complex characters develop throughout the text. Be sure to provide specific examples from the text. For nonfiction books, you're going to pick characters, or you can choose 2 events or situations. And you're still going to do about the same amount of analysis and text citation. My example of Little Red Riding Hood, I'm going to use characters. Alright, so how do you read for a character analysis? First of all, you probably want to make a list or a timeline or a cluster map for each character. Describe the character in detail from the evidence that the author gives you about the character, and note how the character changes or grows over time. Now here are some words that are commonly used in a character analysis. You don't have to use these words. These are literary terms, but you're welcome to use them. So there's static and dynamic characters, flat and round characters, and then you can call characters antagonists or protagonists. So once again, you are welcome to use these words, but you can still get a really high score if you don't use these words. But these are character words. Alright, so here's an example of a brainstorm list. So as I was reading, I took some notes. Notice that I made sure to identify where the note came from. So if that was the note that I was going to use in my character analysis, I'd be able to cite the text. Some people like to do cluster maps. So in the case of a cluster map, you're going to write the character in the middle, and then you're going to brainstorm out some descriptive words that you find in the text, and then I would actually do a third layer out from there. And so if you say the word, let's say friendly, you're going to provide a specific example of Little Red Riding Hood being friendly to the wolf, and then you're going to cite the text. So you have all your evidence mapped out on your character map. And finally, there's lots of students who like to look at stories in a linear way. Some of you will like to use that, it looks like a witch hat. It's actually a plot chart, and it starts with introduction, rising action, climax. And some of you are just going to want to take chapter notes. So in this case, I took some chapter notes. There were 5 chapters in my book, and so for each chapter, I took a few notes about the character of Little Red Riding Hood. So you're welcome to do that too. Whatever way allows you to record information about the character, do that way. Do what's best. Alright, so here's my example paragraph to show you that I understand the character of Little Red Riding Hood. So look again at my topic sentence, my thesis for this particular response. I identify the character. I name her as the protagonist. I decided I was going to use some of those words. And then I explain that it's a children's fairy tale. So make sure that you give context to where that story comes from. All right. Now, if you notice, I also do some analysis. So I label the character, and then I provide specific text evidence, and then I analyze how that text evidence supports my thesis. So I said the reader doesn't even know her name, the reader sees Red's reaction to danger, and then down below the danger of strangers and wolves is well known. So notice how I'm always going back to my theme, I'm always going back to my character, and I stay on topic. Alright, how to earn a top score on the rubric. Characters, this part of the summer reading is worth 10 points. You're going to want to write several detailed paragraphs for each character. You want to address how that character progresses through the story. Make sure to include how the character ends up compared to his or her introduction. Use specific details and cite the area of the text where the evidence comes from, the page or the chapter. And then analyze how this evidence supports the character's growth or change throughout the story.